welcome back to another week of Techy Tuesday. Today we're going to continue our series on Gmail tip, tricks, and hacks by talking about how we can organize and physically lay out our email inbox so that it makes sense to us. Every agent's a little different, and you might need to tailor your inbox so that you can work the most efficiently to what your needs are. So there are a couple of changes we can make to help us out with that. For example, right here, I have my inbox sorted so that I get my unread emails first, and then I can go and look at everything else as I need to. Because, for example, these 6 emails I have here that are unread, before I leave at the end of the day, I'm going to make sure I fully clear those out. And first thing when I get there in the morning, I want to make sure that anything that came in overnight is addressed first thing when we walk in. So I like to view all my unread emails separately from everything else because these have action items, and everything else I only need to access if I need to pull information from them. Later on next week, we also are going to dive into labels and filters, which is only going to further our organization because now I can lump things into specific categories and I can tell items from certain senders to go into certain folders so that it is very, very quickly and easily organized as I need it to be. But again, we'll dive into that next week. We just want to talk about more of the aesthetics of what we're looking at within our inbox. So in order to do this, everything's going to be under your settings. So you'll find this little gear icon in the top right-hand corner and select it. We are not going to go in to see all settings. There's a couple other things we can do in there, but we're just going to start under this quick settings panel right here. First, we have density. This is going to be how closely stacked your email previews are. I leave mine on default because if you look at this little image, I like to see the preview of the attachments. It gives me a better idea of what this person might be emailing about since I am on the tech support side of things. However, comfortable and compact is what a lot of people go with. It will not show those attachment previews, and you'll get a lot smaller of a preview based on how tightly you want to see things next to each other. We also have theme here. So I've got this nice pretty kind of teal green. If you do view all, you can change your theme. They have tons of images. You can upload your own image, or you can select a color theme, whatever you might want to do, and it's going to adjust the background image to whatever that theme is that you have selected. Going on from themes, we also have inbox type. This is my favorite thing to mess with because this is how I was able to separate my unread emails from everything else. And if I went back to default, everything would be in one long line and it would start to save everything chronologically. I don't like that because I leave my action items, things that I need to do, as unread. So it's a lot easier for me to see those first rather than to sort it by chronological order, because a lot of times my unreads can get pushed further and further back to where it's hard to navigate and find them again. Now you can decide what your priorities are. If you want to see your important emails or your starred emails, you can even customize even further to really specific needs. Or if you have multiple Gmail accounts, you can decide how you are going to lay that out so you're not constantly having to go up here and switch your account. Another way that I have mine set up is priority inbox, in which I have organized it so not only do I see my unreads, but I also see my starred emails, because I do like to star my emails if I need to come back and handle something, but I had already replied or done the initial investigation. And then everything else, again, I only access if I need information from those emails. So these two are going to be my most important things that I want to be looking at. Now, again, you might be a little different, so decide which organization method you would prefer, but I tend to leave mine on unread first. Now we also have reading pane underneath that. So currently I can only view my inbox or I can view an email. I cannot look at both items at the same time. For example, if I go into this Prospects Plus email, I no longer can see my list of incoming emails. I can only see the one email I intended to look at. But if you turn on the reading pane, now all of a sudden you are able to not only see the email and respond to it or do what you need to with it, but you also have access to your full inbox directly next door to that. And then the last thing we have down here is called email threading. This one's probably the most complicated to explain to people, but you have two options. You can have conversation view turned on or turned off. What this means and what's actually happening here is, say you are in a conversation. Maybe there are 3 of you discussing changes that you need to make to your marketing. And each time somebody responds, it is lumping together typically where it will say the subject line. Say that line was signing contracts. Then it'll say signing contracts, and in parentheses, it will have the number of new emails associated with that thread. So if all 3 of you responded, it would say signing contracts, parentheses 3, because there would be 3 unread emails in that conversation. So you can either lump everything together into one email notification, or you can turn that off, which is what I prefer to do. And this lets me get individually notified every single time somebody responds to a thread. Again, because I'm on the IT side of things, sometimes I get thrown into a conversation halfway through, and it's a lot easier for me to make sure I do not miss an email because I'm individually notified anytime somebody responds, rather than where it says signing contracts, parentheses 10, and you have to go and make sure you check all 10 emails that were updated in that thread. So you can decide if you want that on or off. Again, I like to turn it off and be individually notified per response. Now there are a couple other things we can do under See All settings. For example, you can decide how many emails per page you would like to see. If 50 is a little overwhelming, you can turn that down. And then there's a couple other small things we can do in here. So play around with your settings, go through them. Again, we will talk more about the actual functionality and being able to do labels and filters in our next video. So keep up with that if you're curious. And then we'll continue on with a couple of more tips, tricks, and hacks for you throughout the next few weeks. If you have any questions on this process, please reach out to us. But until then, we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in.